Tonight, Dallas just moved one step closer to leaving City Hall behind.
Yeah, a committee just voted unanimously to explore moving to a new location and redeveloping the iconic site downtown.
But while the fight is not over, moving day for some offices may come faster than others. Dallas City Hall reporter Cole Sullivan explains.
The price tag to modernize this place made jaws drop.
And I think all Dallas residents should be shocked by this number.
And politicians angry.
We're asked to be making $1 billion policy decision here, and I'm asking, if you're giving me one scenario here, how am I supposed to make a decision not knowing what the other scenario is?
The report from building experts estimated more than $1 billion to get the nearly 50-year-old City Hall up to today's office standards. So Dallas moved one step closer to moving out.
It's not about the concrete walls. It's about everything else going on in here.
The report details challenges with, well, pretty much everything. The roof, HVAC, plumbing, mechanical, and even fire suppression systems.
And if you can't get to the stairs, I guess remember to stop, drop, and roll.
City officials say the building is safe for now, but something needs to change.
Status quo is absolutely not an option.
And the third party overseeing the report says no amount of looking at it will make a difference.
It would be very difficult for me to think that anyone would find a different conclusion.
This committee unanimously advanced a proposal to move all the staff somewhere else, starting with 911 operations ASAP.
This decision is about stewardship of public resources and preservation of public trust. We owe it to Dallas to get it right.
The full council will now vote before anything officially changes, then begins the hunt. If City Hall isn't here anymore, then where? In Dallas, I'm Cole Sullivan.
So how does renovating City Hall compare to other iconic buildings in North Texas? AT&T Stadium cost more than $1 billion to build back in 2009. That's about $1.7 billion in today's dollars. Here's a more recent project. Globe Life Field was completed 6 years ago at a reported cost of $1.2 billion. That would be about $1.5 billion now. The American Airlines Center only cost $420 million in 2001, which works out to roughly $770 million today.
Tonight, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is urging a state agency not to issue Camp Mystic a license this year. 25 girls and 2 teenage counselors at the family-owned camp were killed during the devastating floods along the Guadalupe River last July. More than half the buildings at Camp Mystic sat in a 100-year floodplain. In a letter to the Department of State Health Services, the Lieutenant Governor says the license should not be issued until the investigation into the deaths is complete and any necessary corrective actions are taken. He says an investigative committee is scheduled to meet this spring. Now, the camp released a statement saying it is in compliance with all aspects of the state's new camp safety laws and says there is no regulatory basis to deny Camp Mystic Cypress Lake its license. They say Camp Mystic Cypress Lake is a separate property that is not adjacent to the Guadalupe River and sustained no significant damage from the historic flood.
Tonight, the parents of 9 campers and counselors have filed a lawsuit against employees at the state health department. The suit alleges state officials licensed Camp Mystic despite knowing it lacked a legally required evacuation plan. Attorneys claim the officials consciously and recklessly endangered their lives, violating their constitutional right to life and safety.
A day after Mexican authorities killed the country's most powerful drug lord, violence continues between national security forces and cartel gunmen. Cartel fighters continue to block roads in the state of Jalisco. More than 70 people died in the attempt to capture Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho. He was the notorious leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Mexico. And just hours ago, flights resumed to and from Puerto Vallarta and Guadalajara. WFAA's Teresa Woodard talked to travelers about their concerns.
The flight to DFW took 2.5 hours after 24 hours of fear.
It was pretty intense. A lot of military, cars burning, stores. It was on fire, everything, and a lot of chaos.
Here are videos on Alex Castro's phone.
This was a car burning.
From Guadalajara, Mexico, where his grandmother lives, where his mom was born.
Everything was very sad, very, very sad. I never seen my city like that way.
A city under attack. Retaliation by a cartel after the Mexican military took out its leader.
I was really scared.
all air travel stopped. The State Department warned U.S. citizens to find shelter and stay there.
It's not a place you want to be right now at all.
Longtime travel consultant Steve Cosgrove advises against all Mexico travel right now. The chaos was not nationwide. Mexican cruises are still sailing, with some canceled stops in and around Puerto Vallarta. But Cosgrove himself would cancel all spring break vacations to any Mexican destination.
I would not be letting my kids go down there if I had any to go. You can go next year.
Texas and Mexico share more than 1,200 miles of border. Farmers are being told not to cross unless absolutely necessary. And Governor Abbott is surging DPS troopers, trying to keep violence from spilling over.
Tense, just tense right now, and people scared.
Alex and his mom spent one extra night in Guadalajara locked down with family, then caught the first flight they could, relieved to be home in Texas. At DFW Airport, I'm Teresa Woodard.
Tonight, a Fort Worth police officer is looking back on the moment he was ambushed and left for dead. March 15th marks 10 years since Officer Matt Pierce was shot 6 times in the line of duty. When 2 suspects took off from a traffic stop, he chased after them, and one man opened fire at point-blank range. Officer Pierce credits his faith for allowing him to survive.
He wasn't done with me. He wasn't done with me. And I don't know what, I don't truly know what the bigger purpose is for me still being here.
He went through several months of rehab and came back to the force the following year.
In just the last hour, the city of Plano withdrew plans to hold an election that could have led to the city leaving DART. The city council voted unanimously to approve the new interlocal agreement with DART, which means voters will not decide whether to stay in May. The transit agency says it will send a portion of sales tax revenue back to member cities, and each city will get a seat on the board. Irving, Addison, and Farmers Branch will discuss canceling their elections to leave DART this week.
Dozens of concerned residents are demanding answers tonight after the city of Pantego shut down a longtime dance studio. The owner told us she was blindsided, and now the community is rallying to her side. As Adriana D'Alba reports, they're demanding more insight on this decision.
Places I've wanted to do it, but we have raised.
A standing room only crowd in Pantego.
This creates major uncertainty.
Frustration spreading to an overflow crowd outside. Families dressed in purple, fighting for their dance studio.
Our community deserves transparency, fairness, and consistency.
They're talking about UPAC, the United Performing Arts Company, a studio that has been part of this community just south of Arlington for more than 2 decades. Now, it's shut down. The city revoked its certificate of occupancy days after a shooting outside the business on February 13th.
I called 911 after hearing at least 10 gunshots.
Neighbors say the shooting happened after a private event at the studio, bullets hitting a nearby garage.
Due process is a right.
Police have not said whether anyone was hurt. Few details have been released. Owner Angie Meister is now challenging the city's decision. Her attorney William King sent a letter demanding the city reverse what he calls a wrongful decision. He cites a lack of evidence and a lack of due process.
What concerns me the most is the precedence this is setting.
Owner Angie Meister made an emotional plea.
Help them be safe, help us keep healing them through the arts, and help our staff get back to work.
The mayor offered little in response, just thanking those who showed up.
That's about all I can say on that, so thank you again for coming out.
Tonight there was no reversal, just a community in purple and a dance studio still dark. In Pantego, I'm Adriana D'Alba.
Looking ahead to tomorrow morning in the opening statements in a federal trial, 9 people are accused of attacking an ICE facility in Alvarado. The judge swore in a panel of jurors and alternates today after asking if they could weigh the evidence fairly despite any personal views on the Trump administration, immigration enforcement, or anti-fascist activists. The case centers on an incident last 4th of July at the Prairieland Detention Center about a half-hour south of Fort Worth. Prosecutors claim the suspects are part of an Antifa cell that coordinated the attack online and ambushed detention officers. They're accused of setting off fireworks to lure officers outside, then opening fire. One officer was shot in the neck but survived.
Now to a live look at the U.S. Capitol, where President Trump will deliver his State of the Union address tomorrow. He's working to convince voters the economy is improving as Republicans head into the midterms with control of Congress at stake. The The president says he has a lot to address. You can watch it at 8 p.m. right here on WFAA. And following his speech, President Trump is expected to make a trip here to Texas on Friday. Our partners at the Texas Tribune say the president will travel to Corpus Christi. The White House has not yet released an official itinerary.